Hi everyone, I'm Rita Lavon and welcome to my channel at Love Build Share. And I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. And if you're not already a subscriber, I ask that you click on that red square in the right hand corner of your screen. Today's video is going to be a heart-to-heart video. These videos mean so much to me. The topics are near and dear to my heart, and I'm just so excited to be able to share these ideas with you. I have so many notes written down. Y'all are gonna see me look down and look at my phone because I'm just so excited about this topic because it just, it's I guess you could call it controversial. And with that being said, let me go ahead and tell y'all, today's topic is going to be about children, about a woman getting pregnant, about a woman, taking care of that child, and just the things that, especially us in the Black community, that we suffer with. And I just absolutely love this topic. I love it. I love it. I love it. So I want to start off by talking about the thumbnail that I have chosen for this video. So you'll notice in the thumbnail, it is a pregnant woman, and at the top it says the child chat, and then at the bottom it says the woman who carries. And I specifically put those words, the woman who carries, because I don't think that people truly realize that not everyone can actually get pregnant. I feel like we kind of forget that still. So there are so many ways this topic of having children and raising children can go, and I feel like it's going to be such a long video, and I may have to break it up. But when you talk about getting pregnant and having a child, so first you have to get pregnant, which not everyone can. There are all kinds of hormonal conditions where some women are not able to even get pregnant. And then once you are pregnant, there are so many conditions that a woman can get while she's pregnant. Preeclampsia, high blood pressure, diabetes. Those are just a few. There's so many that I don't even know of that a woman can get while she's pregnant. And then you can talk about actually delivering that child. And I'm not going to get into the whole Roe versus Wade, because that topic, we could go down a long road talking about that, because that is so important. So important. Who would have ever thought we would have seen the day that it was overturned? Absolutely horrible. But that's also very important too for women who are not able to have their child full term, and what that means for them, and what that means for the doctor who may have to do the surgery for that. There's just so much with that. But anywho, delivering a child, a woman having a C-section, that's a serious, some women don't make it, and then delivering a child and the pain that a woman has to go through in order to deliver a child, whether that be from C-section or naturally. There's so much to it. And then once the child is here, we could talk about how expensive it is to actually take care of the child, even before you leave the hospital. I mean, what about hospital bills and how much that costs? What about the car seat? What about having a dependable car to keep your child in? It's so popular for people to want to pressure people, or pressure women, I should say, into having a child. It's so popular, especially from the older generation, just expecting women to, have a child at the same age as them because they did it. The world that we live in today is not the world from who knows when. This is not the 1970s, 80s, 90s, or the early 2000s. Things are not the same anymore. Things are not as cheap as they used to be. I always think it's so interesting whenever people ask, people well, when are you going to have a baby? Or, I think it's really interesting the way people ask that question before you're even married, as if they just want you to have a baby because that's the popular thing to do. Children are expensive. So when I talk about things like insurance is expensive based upon, of course, your job and what type of plans they have and what you have to pay for that. But that's not even including a copay. That's not even including the bill you get in the mail, because insurance doesn't pay for everything. People don't think about that. So we can talk about health insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance, life insurance. We can talk about the price of daycare. Like, I know for where I live, prior to the pandemic, the average price of daycare for a child was $200 a week. And I'm sure now with inflation, I'm sure it's went up. But can you afford that as a person? Because people want you to have a child before you're even married and have two incomes. And you just think that everybody in the world can afford $200 a week for daycare? And that's not to mention, formula and diapers and bibs and, all the 20,000 things that you have to give to the daycare provider in order for them to be able to take care of your child while you're at work. And speaking of being at work, we could talk about maternity leave. Some people work at jobs where they hardly have any maternity leaves. I saw something recently on social media where a woman was excited because her job just approved them to have 2 weeks maternity leave. So for those that aren't aware, not every job offers at least 6 weeks. That's not every job. It depends on where you work at, what type of company that you work for. Every job is completely different. We could talk about postpartum depression. With the help of social media, it really has brought awareness to these type of things and what women have to go through. Postpartum depression is real. There are women who are seriously suffering. They are truly going through. And what happens when you're young and you don't have the resources readily available to take care of those things? The thing about life is oftentimes most people make more money as they get older. But people want you to have a child before, let's say, 30, maybe 35. So people who are usually under 30, they don't have a lot of money. So you have no money saved, you have no insurance, you have little to no income, and then you may or may not be married, and everybody just wants you to have a child because that's the popular thing to do. People have had children so often and so quickly that it has become the normal to just, oh, I want to have my babies before I'm 30. So if you're listening to this and you are of whatever age, because it's not just for young people, think about how you want to raise your child. Think about how expensive it is. Think about how are you or you and your spouse going to be able to pay for a child or children. Because it's not just one in some cases, it's multiple. It's extremely expensive and it's a very serious decision, and it's something that should be well thought out, because what I have learned to see is that a lot of people that have children, they wanted children, but they didn't want them at the very time that they had them. And what I mean is their children are here because they had unprotected sex, not because they were either in a committed relationship or married and they actually wanted that child at that particular time and that they were prepared for that child. It has constantly become something of, oh, well, it just happened, but it really didn't if you were having consensual sex. I am a believer in love, marriage, house, children. I consider that to be order. I consider falling in love. I consider getting married to that person. And I consider purchasing a home and then having a child. And I want to break down all of those and how it relates to having a child and how doing that can set you up for success, even if you have some type of struggle along the way, because as I always say, we all have struggles. It's just a part of life, but we're not supposed to live in that struggle forever. So let's talk about having a child in terms of being married. When you are married, that person is your helpmate. And I'm going to stop there, because what's happened is in society, people have tried to twist and turn marriage. It's turned into this negative. But when I'm talking about it, I'm talking about it in a positive. Because when you are married to the right person, you will have a helpmate. You will have a companion. You won't have to do things by yourself because you're not supposed to. You're supposed to have a spouse, someone to help you. But in the Black community, it has become so popular to be a single mother. So when you have that spouse, you don't have to do it by yourself. You don't have to rely on other people's households to help you with your own, because you've made a smart decision about who you're going to have a child by. And then we could move on to talk about a house. I personally have no desire to have a child in an apartment. Do people do it every day? Of course, but I don't think we should. One of the things about having a house is having a place where your child can run, kick, play, be as loud as they want to be without having neighbors all around you who can complain about you. Children can't be themselves in apartments, especially if you live on top of someone, because somebody's going to be complaining about your child doing too much. But I don't think we want to talk about that enough in the Black community, because it's so popular for us to just, oh, I'm young, I'm going to have a baby because I don't want to be old when I have my baby. What's wrong with being older when you have your baby? What's wrong with making smarter decisions? In my personal opinion, we should not be single mothers unless we have either been attacked. And when I say that, I mean either the R word or the SA word. And I say it in that manner because the algorithm of YouTube will flag my video if I say the actual word. So hopefully you all can understand that. Again, that is the R word or the SA word. That's serious. Or if your spouse has died. When you set yourself up for love, marriage, house, children, you're setting yourself up for success. Those things help you along the way to lay a foundation for your family. I know you're probably like, girl, you're getting a little serious. That's because it is serious. All right. So some of the things I wrote down, I feel like people want you to have a child before you have certain things. And granted, yes, of course, you don't have to have these things to have a child, but you also should, because it's laying a foundation. And I think that's what's really important about this conversation that I'm having with you all, is that us as people, we are supposed to lay the foundation for our children. You know, it's very common for people to say, I grew up with my child, but I don't agree with that. You're supposed to be grown when you have your child, because you're not supposed to be a child yourself. Because when you become a parent, you're supposed to put aside childish ways. And childish ways include the whole run the streets type of thing. That whole party lifestyle, the club lifestyle, the, run up and down the street lifestyle, that's not healthy for your children. And I don't think a lot of us truly realize that. But I'm going to read some things that I wrote down about basically what people want you to be, because they want you to be like them. And it may not even necessarily be in terms of like a bad thing, but I think it comes from in terms of people wanting you to be like them. It becomes a bond, and a bond over, well, if I had to do it, then you have to. But why would you want someone to struggle the same as you? Wouldn't you want someone to do better than you so that they can be a better example, so that they can show a different way? So interesting, right? But far too often, we continue this cycle. You know how it's like people call them generational curses? Being a single mother can be one of them. Because think of all the struggles of the woman in your life have to go through. It's why we have this whole strong Black woman. I don't want to be the strong Black woman. I don't want that syndrome, because that syndrome comes from having to do everything ourselves. We're not supposed to. We can't do everything ourselves. It's the reason why a lot of us are stressed, we are tired, irritated, we get overstimulated. And now with the help of social media, it's showing examples of that. So it helps people understand that they're not the only ones going through it, but that they have to get help in order to overcome it. And a part of that help is also making smarter decisions. Because don't get me wrong, when I'm speaking about this today, the struggles in life that we have as Black people, some of them are definitely systematic. Like, for real. You know what I mean? It is so true that there are systems put in place for us to fail. But we also have to acknowledge that there are some things that we do to ourselves. There are choices and better decisions that we can make to make our lives better. And that's what I'm trying to do when I speak on this topic today. So you'll have to excuse me if my voice is heightened or you see me moving around. But look, I'm Black, okay? That's a part of it, all right? We have flavor and a lot of us just do a little, you know what I mean? That's just how it is. I just wanted to give that explanation in case somebody didn't understand. But I just feel like overall, people just want us to be like them, living in that struggle. And I'm here to tell you that that is not what we are supposed to be. God wants us to be prepared. And a part of being prepared to have a child is to be married, is to live in a home, is to have things prepared for our child. When I'm on social media and I see these images now of Black people living in a way that I feel like I didn't see before, because of course I knew that it was possible, but when I see a married Black man and a married Black woman living in a beautiful home, having their children, kissing, hugging, cooking, cleaning, just taking care of their family, that is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. Because I know that that's the way that it's supposed to be. God wants the best for us. But a part of that is doing our own work to get to that point. And I know that a portion of that is the decisions that we make. So if you are listening to this message and you are used to the struggle, the strong Black woman, the single motherhood, know that there can be a different life than you. Know that you can have a Black man who loves you and only you, who doesn't cheat on you, who won't use you, who won't abuse you, who will value you, who will date you, who will marry you, who will build with you, because they are out there. And I know because I am married to one. And if it can happen to me, it can happen to you. You just have to believe. So if you also are one of those people who are asking people when they're going to have a child because maybe you're ready to be a grandparent, an aunt, an uncle, a great whatever, I urge you to think twice before you ask next time. Because the people around you are going through all kinds of situations, and you never know if the woman that you're asking is not able to get pregnant. You never know if the man that you're asking is having a hard time in his marriage and him and his wife are not prepared for that. You never know if that couple can afford to have a child. Because wouldn't you want the people in your life to make the smartest decision possible based upon what God tells them to do? And there's so many ways that I can take this topic, but I think I've said enough for now. And while you are here and before you go, please make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe so I can get this message out in the world. And also don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Facebook. Those links are in the description box. And I will see you all in my next video. Bye-bye.